been running independent alternative events for over 20 years. Join me and my guests as we share stories and insights into our times working in the unpredictable world of producing events.
My guest today is a nice fellow I've known around the Perth art scene for quite some years. He's a multi-talented all-rounder, producing events from comedy to theatre to webcasts. He's a major pop culture fanatic and now toy maker and who knows what else. He's a one-man show, but has demonstrated he can also work well in teams. Shane Adamczak, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me. That felt like a really nice teacher's report, at the end of a good year. Works well in teams, but can work well on his own.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you work in teams, and I've seen you work alone, and I've seen you do that a lot.
Yeah.
And look, man, I follow you on Facebook, have been for a while, and you're very consistent in your work. You're very active, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those, especially during when the big COVID thing hit, I discovered I was very much one of those performers that, despite challenges, needs to keep making something. And when that couldn't be live theatre or comedy anymore, that's when I kind of delved into the toy thing. I was like, I guess I'm like a shark, it's like it just keeps swimming, just deviate. So many pivots.
Yeah. I understand. I did pretty much the same thing. When COVID hit, I recorded an album, lockdown album.
Yeah, cool.
In my bedroom and my walk-in wardrobe and that kind of thing. So yeah, we're forced to be resourceful.
Yeah, as tough as it was really inspiring for me to see all the things that people started to create that was sort of deviating from what they'd been doing previously, just because they were forced to stay at home, all right, what can I do here in this room with what I have or what I can get delivered to my house?
Absolutely. So that was me, and at the time, when the C-bomb happened, I was in between houses and I was sharing with strangers.
Great.
And
ideal. That's what you want.
And it was tough. They were so dumb. But they just were very different to me. They weren't creative or inquisitive at all or anything like that.
Yeah,
the kind of people that I would never really hang out with,
Sure.
But anyway, I was making music in my room, so I wasn't coming out that often. Not that I really wanted to anyway.
Yeah.
But this rumour ran around that I was up to no good in my room,
He's up to bloody mischief in there.
What's he up to in there? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm fucking making music. Yeah. What are you doing? Anyway,
making banana bread. Or something. Which
I wish.
Don't worry, there's a place for it. Don't get me wrong.
But my point is that lucky us, we're resourceful and creative, and so
I just don't know what else to do, man.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I'm no stranger to refining my craft over the years, and I suppose you're a bit like me, a genre jumper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
You've got to spread yourself across.
I mean, if I was relying on my income from acting, I'd be more destitute than I am now. So instead, I like to be destitute over a bunch of different other mediums.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've done a lot, man. I've known you for a while, for at least 10 years.
Oh, I reckon longer.
15.
Yeah. I was trying to think where we met. Do you remember? Because I don't.
Well, I used to do the sound and lighting for the Laugh Resort.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
You would have been on stage.
Yeah. So
around,
2000. I think probably 2005 is when I did my first stand-up stuff at Laugh Resort.
Yep. Well, I was around then. I did sound and lighting there for what felt like about 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's where I was thinking that I would have met you.
Yeah,
there,
that makes sense.
Most likely there.
Yeah.
And then Blue Room
and Art Rage
stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, outrage, just because it's such a so many different things fall under that banner.
It's art stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're talking at least 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
but we still got it, baby.
Still got it there. So let's start with early influences. Mm-hmm. But where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
So I grew up in Western Australia, born and raised. I went to Padbury Catholic Primary School and Sacred Heart College, private schools, which fortunately had like quite good theatre programs, especially Sacred Heart, which did like a big, full school musical and like a Year 12, end of year production and like relatively decent production values as well for a high school. And like the teachers there were really good and encouraging, and that kind of gave me the confidence to try and keep doing it afterwards.
Okay.
Because, it's not something that every teacher would encourage you to do.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, so then I went to WAPA. But yeah, very early influences were like.
What years were you in high school?
So I graduated high school in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not me.
When did you graduate?
I got to year 11.
Yeah.
1988.
Okay. Cool. I thought we were about the same age in my brain.
Old. I'm a Time Lord.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense.
It's
yeah,
true.
Right. So I grew up watching a lot of like slapstick stuff, like with my dad, who got kind of handed it down from his mum on the Polish side of my family. So lots of like, Three Stooges kind of stuff.
Oh, so your background is Polish?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. So my last name, like my showbiz version is Adamczak, but it's actually Adamczak. Adamczak is my last name.
Wow.
So I've got Polish heritage on my father's side and Mauritian heritage on my mother's side. And my grandfather, my mum's dad, was sort of the artistic side. He was a violin player.
Oh, cool.
And he played, I believe he played in the orchestra with David Heathcott at some point.
Wow.
A long time ago.
Okay.
So that's sort of where, and then like my great uncle was sort of like a carver, so he did lots of carving and stuff. So there's a little bit of art and comedy sort of speckled all through my family.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So basically, the 90s was your main kind of inspiration or exposure to pop culture.
Yeah, big time. Like, so it's sort of like the arse end of the 80s, which is like where all the best toys and cartoons came from, and a little bit into the 90s where arguably some of the worst fashion and music came from, but some of the best as well.
Also, cartoons in the 90s went next level.
Oh, there was some good stuff.
Yeah, they went so next level.
Yeah, like Ninja Turtles still hanging on for a bit.
Well, not just that, they got kind of adulty with Ren and Stimpy, Eek the Cat, and all these kind of cartoons that.
And a lot of like cool stuff coming out on like SBS kind of stuff, like Robin and like Aeon Flux and Neon Genesis and all this kind of awesome stuff.
The Aeon Flux thing was awesome. I love Aeon Flux.
Super cool.
And that was something that came out of MTV called Liquid Television.
Yeah. And then there was like SBS had like Eat Carpet, which was awesome.
Yeah,
all that kind of like Beavis and Butthead.
The 90s. Well, I mean, if movies, Tarantino was coming out. You had Reservoir Dogs, and but also the 90s produced some awesome independent films.
Clerks, one of my all-time favorites,
up there at the top 10. So the 90s were quite revolutionary still in that pop culture.
And all that kind of like really like DIY indie stuff was like right up my alley. In terms of like even like music as well, like the indie scene in Western Australia was smashing it at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Were you ever in a band?
I was in a couple of bands actually.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so my first like proper band where we actually like did gigs, 2 people, was just after maybe third year uni, and the year after that was called 3.5-inch Floppy. Was like as in like the hardware.
You guys are serious.
We're
right?
very serious pop punk band. sort of, Green Day, Blink-182-esque, but not quite as good. And that was so much fun. So I played bass and was like the lead singer in that band.
Oh yeah, cool.
And literally my uncle had a bass, and he and I would just borrow it from now and then. And then for my 18th birthday, I'd been borrowing his guitar for so long. He just left me a note that said, he just gave me like a bunch of picks and like a guitar strap, said, "This is for the bass, which now belongs to you." And I was just like, that is sick. And then I sort of graduated to guitar after that. So I had another band, like a 2-piece with occasional guests called the Spin Chorus after that, which was more of a like folksy pop kind of thing.
Sounds folksy popsy.
Yeah, it was.
Good.
But that was also like, it was also fun. I was like really into like Dylan and stuff at the time.
Cool.
And I still am.
Yeah.
And was like really influenced to that. So yeah, it was just like another little experiment of things. Like I know I'm never going to be a famous musician, but it's fun to pretend,
Oh, it's fun to be in a band.
So much fun.
Until it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't like where this is going.
The great thing about bands is they like really bring people together.
Yeah.
But then they fucking tear them apart as well.
How many bands have you been over the years?
Heaps.
It's a lot.
At least 10 or so.
Yeah.
And then I managed one. I wasn't in that band, but it was my Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, cool.
I raised it. And
it's alive.
yeah, that was pretty
and
much.
And then it killed a bunch of villagers.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Well, no, they actually turned into Frankenstein monsters and all ran away. But yeah, bands, that's an entire realm.
Yeah, like what is it? Like every rock star wants to be a comedian. Every comedian wants to be a rock star.
Something like that. But I knew that the next band I would manage would be the one I'm in as well.
Yeah, okay.
Because as an amateur, I discovered as an amateur sort of band manager, you can only take your band to A level.
Yeah,
like level 1. And then someone else will take them to level 2. Right. It's just the progression of that business.
Sure.
Like, the longer you've been in it, the more people you know. It's like that.
But then you put yourself in the band, at least you get to go for the next level.
Exactly.
Right,
I'm going for the fucking ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing all this work for nothing.
Yeah.
So I managed 2 bands actually. Yeah. But, they were short-lived and but I got recordings. That's the most important thing if you are anyone who's venturing into band adventures. Make sure you record everything before it, ends.
It's almost like you want to keep a record
Yes.
of that music. What a great idea.
I wonder why they called it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I've always loved doing music and stuff. Like, and with Zach Adams, which was like my big sort of solo comedy / theatre thing for a good part of a decade. That kind of ended. The final show was like kind of like a folk rock show because I was just trying to combine all my passions at the time, which was comedy and theatre and music. And I was like, well, it's my show. I can just do all 3. So I'll just do like a rock concert show. And that was a good one to finish on when I sort of put the pin in that project.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, recall your first time on stage.
Like at a professional level, or like just at all?
I don't know, pick whatever you like.
All right. Well, going back to like childhood, like the first proper like thing where I was like, oh, this is a thing that I enjoy. I was like a very shy kid, which I think is a pretty common genesis for a lot of artists. Grade 2 or 3, there was like. Maybe 4, grade 4, my teacher, we did like a assembly of like Cinderella or something, but it was like she rewrote this crazy version where Cinderella like goes into a TV and comes out in a parallel universe, primary school stuff. And I got cast in the lead role of that because I think the teacher very much, she's like, this is like a way to kind of get Shane out of his shell, and it definitely worked.
Yeah, right.
So that was like sort of the genesis of the little spark of like, oh, I like being on stage. I like getting the laughs. I like the attention when I'm on stage, but not off stage. So that was kind of like my little genesis moment. And then, like I said, went through high school doing the productions and stuff like that. The first sort of main thing I did was at the end of first year uni. I did theatre at WAPA, and the course has changed many times over the years, the course I did, but the original idea was after first year, your final like end of year production would then tour to the Adelaide Fringe Festival. And basically the year above me was touring their show, but a few of the cast members couldn't do it. and I got cast in that show. So I was with the year above me, and we went to Adelaide, and I did my first ever Adelaide Fringe Festival. And that was like, you know, for someone who's like just finished first year, that was a huge eye-opener. I was like, holy crap, this is like the second biggest festival in the world, and there's all this music happening, there's all these acts, and you can go see all these other shows for free, and like there's just a party every night. And like that was like, if that event didn't happen, my life would have been so different. Because that was the moment I fell in love with Fringe Festivals, and since then I've done like, I don't know, 60 or 70 festivals.
What a great experience.
Oh man, it was amazing.
To have so early as well.
Yeah. And then I was addicted from that point.
Totally. What a great experience. Yeah. I want to pick your brain about when you played Johnny Rotten. Because
that was a great experience.
That was one of the best theatre shows I ever seen, Perth-wise, and I don't go to the theatre often anymore.
Yeah.
But, and I'm a big Pistols fan.
Same.
And knew the history and everything, saw all the docos, whatever, you know. And when I saw that and that you were playing it, I was definitely interested.
Awesome.
And it was, they were all great performances.
That everyone involved in that show was just so dedicated to telling the story the best way we could. So it was called Vicious Circles, the show. And it actually came about, it's a Montreal show. And it happened before I was ever in it in Montreal, and they were redoing it. They won like a bunch of Fringe Awards, and they got to do a remount. And the guy that they originally had to play Johnny, I think they weren't, I think he did a good job, but they weren't super happy, and I think they wanted to replace him, or he couldn't do it. Anyway, they had auditions, and I auditioned for it while I was living over in Montreal, and was so stoked because like I'd done a few things already, but this was my next sort of big step at my favourite theatre in the whole world, which is Mainline in Montreal.
Wow, man.
And so, they brought me on board to play Johnny, and like I knew the Sex Pistols then, but like I really had to do like a deep dive, because like you playing a real person, especially a real person that's still alive.
Lucky for you, there's so much content as well.
And just like watching interviews and just footage.
Their story is remarkable.
Yeah.
It's sad as well.
Oh, it's depressing as hell.
Yeah.
Especially the way it all ends, but...
Yeah.
So it was like... And even like the structure of the show is like a punk rock thing. Like it's clips from all over the point. It jumps through time.
Totally.
It's messy. It's violent. It's loud.
And it all pretty much revolves around a mattress.
Around a dirty heroin mattress, yeah. And like, we're forever bonded, the people that did that show. And then we did it in Montreal, and then we're like, man, I'm going back to Australia. You guys want to come? Let's do it in Australia. So we did Perth and Adelaide after that.
Yeah.
And that was just such a great experience. Like,
what was it about John Lydon that stayed with you in the research that you did?
Just his overall attitude, like his quote, "Anger is an energy," and just like, fuck yeah, I get that. And like his disdain for the media, and like just the way he just didn't give a fuck about, like, if you didn't agree with him, he's like, fine, whatever, but I'm going to do my thing over here.
And he had a really sharp bullshit detector.
Yeah, big time. And you see in interviews, he doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
And I just really respect that. I mean, he's gone on to do some questionable things that I don't so much agree with. But, you know.
But he does what he likes.
But he does what he likes. He's true to himself.
Exactly. I always, felt a bit sorry for him, because he lost his memory when he was a child.
Yeah.
And he had to regain all his knowledge back. You know, he didn't even know who he was, and
so bizarre.
So he doesn't recollect a big portion of his childhood, and so that would be bizarre to just sort of reintroduce yourself to the world.
Yeah,
after already being introduced.
It's brand new, all shiny, Johnny Rotten.
But you immersed yourself in that character quite well from my point of view, and I think many would agree.
Oh, thanks, man. No, I appreciate that. Like, we even had like people that knew him, or that know him, like at the time where I was playing, which was, the late era of the Pistols, who were like, it was like he was in the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that's the greatest compliment I could ever get. And as an actor who was like still primarily known for comedy and lighthearted stuff, like it was such a role to actually like really sink my teeth into, and my goal wasn't to try and make people laugh, it was to kind of make people a bit scared, which was like kind of cool.
Well, that's a big part of the reason that I wanted to see you in that role, is because I only knew you in comedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's stepping out.
And it really did like help like to show people. I was like, oh, this guy can do other stuff. I was like, I've been trying to tell you guys this for years. You know, just because I'm very good at comedy doesn't mean I can't do other shit.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And like everyone in that cast, like Patrick who played Sid and Kathleen who played Nancy, just like
she was so great.
Good. She's amazing. Kathleen is the nicest person you will ever meet.
It's the nicest people that play the biggest bastards.
And she's so good at playing that horrible, like
whiny,
nagging woman.
Yeah.
Such a joy.
Just about that night at the very beginning. Where Sid had a fight with one of the audience members.
Yeah.
Was that set up?
Yeah,
it looked set up.
So our director Stefan was the audience plan every night, and some nights he did it better than others. But yeah, basically he would like once the show started, he would keep talking, and then Sid would like attack him.
Oh,
and
okay.
He would run to the back of the room, and then he would have to run to the back of the room, and then be running the sound for the rest of the show. So
after a punch in the head.
But yeah, I mean, we did the show in Adelaide, and I remember there was one night a guy like legitimately tried to pick a fight with Patrick playing Sid, and like to his credit, stayed in character, and like he kind of like fought the guy, and it was really awkward. Like I was just like, this is because I'm producing the show as well.
I said
so
more
like,
passion, but wait a minute.
I'm like, this is good, but don't actually hit that man. And like, I think he threw a can at him, and like, my producer brain was going like, oh, this is so bad. But my Sex Pistols brain was going, fuck yeah, this rules. But yeah, it all worked out good. We had a lot of like old school punks coming to see the show in Adelaide, and it was great. They all, for the most part, really enjoyed it, and no one tried to beat us up, so that's good.
No, it was awesome. Okay, well, looking at all your companies and things here.
So many companies.
The big hoo-ha. You're a big part of the comedy Perth scene.
Yeah, man.
You help out and you perform at the big hoo-ha and Lazy Susan's Comedy Den.
Yeah, now at the Rosemount Hotel. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lazy's was great for great. Ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't ask why it's moved, but
yeah, if you don't want too much controversy on your podcast, probably don't talk about it. I will say that I don't go to the Brisbane Hotel anymore.
If the only time I went there was to go upstairs, and watch you guys. But here we are again. We're resourceful. We can take a show and put it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, hoo-ha's been over. We're in our 20th year. We're about to have our 20th birthday, and I've been with it since just before the 5th birthday. So 15, 16 years now, which is a huge slog to do anything. And like the show's like the move to the new pub is we've had its problems and had struggles. We're on a Thursday night, which isn't ideal in Perth. We're looking at hopefully going back to weekends soon, which would be great. Hopefully this year. Whether that happens at the Rosemount or somewhere else, I'm not sure. I'm not really in charge of that stuff. But yeah, hopefully we're gonna.
It was a good run.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a great run. And
so yeah, still slogging along.
I did a couple of ghetto video shows up there.
Yeah.
And I loved the venue, but I hated the stairs because I had to
perilous.
Drag all my shit up and down those narrow stairs.
I saw a drunk woman fall down those stairs once, and it was the worst noise I've ever heard because I was managing the room, and like
lots of cracks.
Just like the noise when she hit the second level. Like she didn't go all the way down, but it was enough that I was like, she could be dead. But she was so drunk, she was fine. She got straight up and was like, "Let me back into the show." I was like, "No, I think we need to call you a cab." But
But yeah, I realised. As much as that venue's great, it's not awesome for lugging production gear on.
Not great if you're in a wheelchair either, because you just can't go there, which is not good.
Maybe through the window with a rope.
Yeah, like a winch system.
A winch system.
Yeah,
I used to have those.
Yeah,
bring those back. But yeah, no, you've been an avid, pretty active comedian for a long time. And now you even run comedy tuition.
Yeah, comedy. So Lazy Susan's comedy runs the School of Comedy, which does Matt Storer, who's a great musical comedian here in Perth, teaches the stand-up stuff. for the most part, I think. And then Sam Longley, who's a big hoo-ha head honcho, teaches improv stuff, and occasionally other tutors like myself jump into that class and take a lesson.
That's great.
To teach, different skills and stuff. I teach at my old drama teacher from high school now has her own like independent school for kids and teens, and I teach there occasionally.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, still keeping the comedy stuff. Like I haven't actually done stand-up myself for quite a long time.
Oh,
now.
okay.
I sort of tapped out when I moved. So when I moved to Montreal in 2012.
Talk about Montreal, actually. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So Montreal was like a huge turning point for me. So I moved. I'd been doing the fringe circuit over there for a couple of years, and 1 year while I was still young enough to get my like working visa, which is like literally like, you have to be under 30 and you can just live in Canada for 2 years and work. It's awesome. So I did that before I was too old. And yeah, so I did my summer tour of the Canadian Fringe circuit, and then just ended up back in Montreal because it's one of my favourite cities in the world, and just sort of set down roots. I thought I'll stay here for a couple of months. Ended up staying there for the whole 2 years pretty much. And in that time, I became the artist in residence at Mainline, which is... it's kind of like the Blue Room Theatre here in Western Australia, but if it was a little bit bigger and a lot more punk rock.
Cool.
Which is why I absolutely love it. And just all the best, like there's two spaces, one that's, I don't know, 100 and something seater, and a little black box, which is 40 seater. And there's great stuff happening, in the before times, of course. There'd be events like strip spelling bee, there'd be Rocky Horror happening all the time during, Halloween months. And just amazing, weird, cool indie shows that were just so fun. So I ended up putting my show Trampoline on there. I did a couple of nights of all the Zach Adams shows, and I developed a show called Captain Spaceship, which is still going to this day, which is like my improv sci-fi show. So a lot of really cool stuff. I ended up teaming up with the guys from Montreal Improv and did a bunch of shows there with some of like just the best improvisers I've ever dealt with. And so I learnt a lot from them, just a whole different style of improv and just the way they approach shows and the way they develop work. And just working with so many great artists and street artists and musicians and people podcasting and just so much happening. And so I got to come back here and go like, hey guys, let's do all this. Let's do it all. Let's do everything. And so just kind of, that was a huge turning point for me in my life and career. It was just so inspiring.
Yeah, it sound and looked like it. We've been Facebook friends for a while, so I see what you get up to. And
and I played live when I was in Montreal.
Oh yeah, I was going to say,
which was like a bedroom talk show, which was just a weird idea. It was during the winter when it was like too cold to go outside. I was like, well, I'll just have people come here and I'll just film a talk show. And I had all these great friends that were willing to jump in.
I saw a couple of those, and they just fun. It was fun. It looked really fun.
And some of the people that were on that show are really big now. So I'm like, I don't want to say that I discovered them, but I'm just saying I knew them before they were cool,
But it's true.
Yeah. I mean, like, my friend Dan is on that show a couple of times, and he's in the new Star Trek, you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
Like, he plays Kirk's brother.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, one thing I did do is I stopped doing stand-up.
Okay.
Because I decided that was going to be a full stop. I wanted to focus more on theatre, which I did, which was good.
Yeah.
And I've delved a little bit back into it when I revamped Love Songs for Future Girl, which is like a comedy music show, when I did it in 2019. But other than that, I've managed comedy rooms since then and dealt with a lot of comedians, some great experiences, some terrible.
Hey, that's
the industry.
It's lucky dip, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole different thing, and I'm glad that I did it for a long time and I got a lot out of it. But I'm definitely glad I stopped to focus on theatre and acting.
Okay. Think of we're on the discussion of flops and frustrations.
I made it cheats.
So I'll let you decide what you want to.
I think,
but something you learn from, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when I came back from Canada, I did Trampoline, which was my attempt at like a sort of like a mainstream rom-com really, but with my sort of like indie sort of twist on it. And I loved that show. That was great, and that did really well, and we toured that around. And then after that was Ballad of Frank Allen, which was a 2-man show that I did with Cinchin Coucher in Australia and my friend Ala France in Canada, which is about a tiny man that lives in another man's beard.
Yeah.
And that one toured for 3-4 years, and that was very successful and won like some pretty decent awards, which was really cool. And after those 2 shows, I decided to go back to do a new solo show. And I would debut it at the Blue Room, and then if it did well, I would take it elsewhere. Needless to say, it only has ever played at the Blue Room Theatre. It was called Stasis, and it was a one-man sci-fi show. The idea was basically if it was like, if Ripley from Alien had killed the aliens, but instead of getting to go home was just stranded on the ship. And that was basically the idea. It was about isolation. I started writing it while I was living in Toronto. This was another time I was living in Canada with my partner at the time. We're in a sort of failing relationship, and it was sort of based on that. And then the relationship ended, which was good. And then the play was basically about like living in that isolation and being by yourself, and just with the handle of sci-fi, because I love sci-fi. And it was very different to other things I'd done. It wasn't strictly a comedy. It was a little bit more serious. It was a bit dark. It was a bit. Okay. It was very stripped back tech-wise. Like I had like an overhead projector in it. I had some basic lighting stuff and some sound design that was really good. And I was really proud of the show, and I liked stepping out of my comfort zone, but it wasn't particularly well received. And the reviewer in the West said, something along the lines of, it's not particularly laugh-a-minute comedy. And I was like, well, it wasn't supposed to be. That was the idea.
Laugh-a-minute comedy.
Yeah, it was, something like that. And I was just quite annoyed. I was like, people didn't really get what I was trying to do. And, it wasn't the best thing I've ever made, but I was still proud of it. But I'm glad that I won't do that show again. At least not in that format.
Hey, we got to... It's we take risks.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
It didn't really pay off.
No.
And it was tricky because at that time the Blue Room had just had like a big like staff overhaul. So like there was a new group of producers and head honchos and all that kind of stuff. And because I'd been living overseas, this was like the first thing of mine that a lot of them had seen. So that didn't help me with, trying to get future things up there, I think. I think that hurt me a little bit.
Yeah,
whereas,
right.
People from the staff in previous years had seen so many other things I'd done there, whether I'd been a producer
I remember when that
whatever.
shift happened at the Blue Room. I might have even had a show at the time with the new head of the Blue Room, and she walked out of my show. Yeah,
so it was a difficult time because there was a definite shift in the sort of stuff the Blue Room was putting out.
Yeah.
And since then, I feel like the Blue Room isn't creating the stuff that I'm particularly interested in anymore for the most part. There's always great stuff, there's always gems, and there's always duds in every season, but...
The Blue Room Theatre was a place I was associated with from an early time. They when I started screening Spliff, my local short film festival, I'd done the first gig or two at it's the Pika Bar now, but it was called Fuel Bar then.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of a run-in with the owners, and they locked the doors on me. They wanted more money at the door. They wanted to take more than 50% of my takings.
Oh, that seems very reasonable.
Yeah, and I said no.
Yeah.
So they locked the door.
Cool. Also very reasonable.
Yeah, reasonable, very professionally handled.
Love that for you.
So I walked down the street and introduced myself to the Blue Room Theatre.
Yeah.
And Jancis,
Jancis O'Hanlon, yeah.
Jancis O'Hanlon, bless your heart.
Love it.
Said, well, yeah, you can do gigs at the Rackabite.
Yeah.
Or here, and so I had a really, creative association with the Blue Room, and for quite some time, and this was even before the renos, when the bar was, you had to go up the big long stair up the side, and everyone smoked on the...
simpler time.
Pretty much an institution, but I haven't... so my Blue Room days kind of stopped quite a while ago, but it's still running and it's still kicking along, and people still do theatre.
There's still some good stuff coming out of
it.
Yeah.
So you, you kind of mentioned before you mentioned your flop, you mentioned your successes, but if you want to kind of choose your highlight.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of theatre, Ballad of Frank Allen, I think it's the best thing that I've ever written.
Yeah.
And I think it's easily the most successful show that I've done. It toured for 2-3 years. Like I said, we did Perth a couple of times. I think we did Adelaide Fringe maybe twice. Yeah, we did it twice. We did Melbourne Comedy Festival. We took it to Sydney. We were going to take it to Darwin, but then COVID kiboshed that. And then I toured it basically every Canadian Fringe Festival with one cast or the other. Some cities... The Canadian Fringe Festival is basically 3 months where you can do like shows just all the time, constantly for 3 months from the East Coast to the West Coast. And there's certain fringes that are big enough that you can do the show there twice. Like you can come back the next year and do it again and it'll still be fine. Some cities, not so much. And that show, like we won a bunch of awards in a few festivals. Like we won a few like best of fests, and we won the Just for Laughs award in Montreal for best comedy show, which is like, it's like awards mean nothing really. But in terms of awards, that's like the only one I've ever like kind of wanted to win. Sure. Because like the people that have won it, I hold in like such high like esteem. And
there's awards and then there's awards.
Yeah. And so that was one that I was like, look, because I'd been nominated for it like, I don't know, 6 or 7 times for some of my Zach Adams stuff and various other things. And I was kind of like, it's always nice to kind of like, put the nomination wreath on there. But yeah, to win it for Ballad of Frank Allen as well, with Al, who's like one of my best friends in the world, like that was a night. That was, and I was just like, holy shit, like we did it. We crushed it this year.
Well deserved. I mean, we've reached for success.
Yeah.
Every time I start a project, the intent is not to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to, sustain it or, all those things. So congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks. I love that show. And then Trampoline, which is one before that, the kind of rom-commy one. I've, over the last couple of years, been developing as a screenplay. Okay. So I think it would make a really cool sort of indie rom-com movie. So hopefully that'll happen at some point down the track. If there's any like wealthy benefactors listening, hit me up. Or people that are like really good at getting funding, hit me up.
Hey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cube Boy Collectibles.
Cube Boy.
So, yes, you've been making toys lately.
Yeah, so that was my big like COVID pivot moment. I'm a big toy collector for years and years, and I've always wanted to like design my own kind of like designer art toys. And that was that moment of being trapped at home where I was like, well, this is something I always wanted to do. I've got the time.
That's it.
And I was living by myself. I had the space. I was like, well, let's give it a shot. And it was a lot of learning, a lot of tutorials, and talking to other artists, and making lots and lots of mistakes, and wasting lots of materials. And I think now, almost 2 years into it, I'm at a place where I'm like really happy with the stuff I'm putting out. And like the stuff that I'm making, I think is just getting better and better and more ambitious.
Yeah, I've been following your process, and I have to say you're a very good documenter.
Oh, thanks, man. I try.
Of your process, and I can, I think I made a comment saying you wanted some feedback or something, and I said like just keep making them and they'll evolve,
And that definitely happened. And I was really lucky. Like there was a YouTube channel I was following, a guy called Factor, who's based in Melbourne, he has a company called Irakanji Toys. And I was just watching some of his videos, and he did this little mini documentary about this little scene in Melbourne called This Is Not a Toy Scene. Oh. Just people like me making cool stuff. And I just sent him a message saying, oh, thanks, man, I learned a lot from this video.
I watched the one you were on.
Yeah. So I was on one of their live streams, and I just like touched base. I said, oh, man, I wish there was something like this in Perth. He's just like, well, just hook up with us, man.
Just hook up, yeah.
And so I just joined their Discord, and like,
awesome.
Those guys and gals are just like so awesome, and there's such a supportive community.
I remember I watched that, and you were like, everyone was doing something, and hanging out, building, and making something, and I was like, "Oh, I want to do that."
Yeah, get on board, man. I'll hook it up. And so through them, like I've done a bunch of exhibitions in Melbourne. I've been part of we did like a land speeder project. Where
I want to talk about the land speeder because I followed you on that process.
That was so cool. So basically, we got given a blank land speeder, and we could do whatever we want with it. The only thing was it had to have 2 characters sitting in it, was the only thing, or it had to have a pilot or something like that. So I did like a mossy wok, which is like a flocked Ewok, and I did like a covered in vines, and it was sort of a mashup between Star Wars and Masters of the Universe.
I was going to say Mossman.
Mossman, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was such a fun thing. And it was like the first big project I did outside of my own stuff for Cube Boy, and like it won an award, and like people really liked it. And now we made a book. They took like really professional photos of all the landscape videos, and they put a book out. And like I'm in this book now. It looks great, and it's so awesome. Yeah, it's like embossed. Oh man, it's so good. And just all these artists from around Australia just helping each other out and just making amazing art. And they did like a Battle Cat project. Yeah. And then we teamed up with Sank Toys from China, and we did like customs of his. And then Irukandji, we did a custom Irukandji show. And there's just all this stuff happening. I mean, I really want to get to Melbourne at some point this year so I can actually meet these guys in person. Yeah. Go to the shop that we've opened in Melbourne.
But how lucky are we that we can do all this virtually and digitally, amazing. You know?
So good.
Yeah, but the Land Speeder project was cool, man.
Yeah, it was such a point. And I was so lucky, like, it did so well that mine sold straight away. And there's another guy that saw it, was like, oh man, if I was there, I would have bought it. Like, can I commission you to make another one? And I was like, okay, but it'll cost this much, and slid the piece of paper across the table, and he was like, yes. And I went, very good. And then, so I made another one for him recently and sent that one over with a few tweaks. And
well, I suppose, like,
so much has come from it.
So many of us have, like, the toys.
Yeah.
But... yeah, let's like inject them with mutant serum and see what happens.
Love it, man. Like doing all this custom stuff is good. Yeah, and then making like it's really helped me learn better ways to make my own designs as well, which has been great.
Yeah, I mean, as a toy collector as well, you know, making your own toys.
Yeah.
I want to do that too.
Do it. Just do it.
So, what's your?
You just can.
Oh, look. I completely can. Yeah. I just got to do it.
Yeah.
Once I finish my current project.
Yeah, once you finish this podcast and put the album
exactly.
out. Yeah. I understand.
But what's the process of making a toy?
So the big thing I'm working at the moment is basically... I know it's a podcast, but I'm just going to show Ivan. So I'm basically making a 3D version of that.
Oh, I know that moment, character.
Which is called Skelecubes. It's basically like a skeleton of a young boy whose body is in a box, is in a cube. So basically I make a design, I figure out the scale I want it to do, and then make sort of a wire framework skeleton of it, and then use epoxy sculpt to make the sculpt, sand it, make it smooth, and once it's perfect, I make a silicone mold of the toy, and then cast all the parts in resin, and then tidy them up, paint them, add magnets for articulation, and then design packaging and get the packaging made, and then ship them off or sell them at conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
So but all those steps, every one of those steps was like hours and hours of things I had to learn.
Yeah.
But it's been such a joy because I love doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying to go like, this is a toy that I designed and hand sculpted and molded and cast and painted. I designed this packaging. Everything here came out of my brain from things I learned from other people.
Yeah.
And again, like making so many mistakes and wasting so much material early on.
But that's the learning process.
Absolutely.
You got to invest.
Yeah, like if it's boring to be good at something straight away. I'm sure it's a thrill. I'm sure it's an absolute thrill.
It's called a fluke.
Yeah. But, if I didn't make those mistakes, I wouldn't know how to do so many things so much better and more efficiently now. And just even just quality,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a progression, things evolve, you know, and so when I'm designing an event or whatever I'm designing, just as it's happening, ideas keep jumping out, Yeah. My problem is I have too many of them.
Yeah, juggling so many different medias at the moment. Like I'm about to lino printing a bunch of tote bags, which I'm working on today. And I hadn't done lino carving for quite a long time, and I have a cut on my thumb. Oh. And, after I cut my thumb and bled and got very upset, I went, okay, I must remember to carve away from my thumb and not into my thumb. And I'm going, now I've learned a valuable lesson. I probably won't do it again.
Yeah. It took yourself to hurt yourself to learn not to hurt yourself.
And when I look at that blood, I go, oh, that's the dumb thing I did. Don't do the dumb thing again.
That's it. Yeah. It's okay to call yourself an idiot every now and then.
Oh, I say it very often. Very often.
Yeah, okay. So... I mean, you sell your wares at all the toy fairs and all those sort of things. I'm seeing that Supernova is getting over here again.
So it's coming back in about a month, and this year with less Nazis, which is exciting. Little to none, I've been told.
The thing about I was going to those things every year.
Yeah.
But for my generation, our heroes are getting a bit on.
Yeah.
The years, or they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
And so for Gen X, or for me anyway, like looking at the stars that are coming is like, who are these people?
Yeah, I think 70s Spider-Man is coming.
Oh,
I'm kind of excited about that.
Have you seen them?
Oh, they're bad.
Oh, but they're so good.
They're so good that they're bad.
I know.
Yeah. They're so bad.
The webbing is rope.
Yeah. And it's not. Yeah, I love it. It's
and
like
they build an atomic bomb in some kid's apartment, and like he's like, that seems dangerous. I think my Spidey senses are tingling.
But at one point, that was the only live-action Spider-Man we had, and we were happy.
Yeah. He's not even really Gen X. He'd be classified as a boomer, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But so my gen's heroes are just, I mean, there's no Bowie, there's no Ramones.
Yeah.
It's getting to that stage.
Definitely.
But glad it's up and running again, and
I think because we had basically 2 failed attempts at making it happen last year because of COVID, it got cancelled and then rescheduled, then cancelled again. I think like the vibe feels pretty good about this one. Like people are excited, and I really hope people are going to make the most of it because we don't get a lot of the big conventions in Perth that that the Eastern States gets.
Yeah. I mean, at one stage we had 2.
We had 2, and I think we're getting Oz Comic Con again. I think they said they were coming back. Maybe.
Was there some controversy? I think there was controversy.
Probably.
Oh well.
But yeah, so I think people will be excited about Supernova. I hope people come out, and I hope we can make it a really good one.
Yeah,
I hope so. Come see me at my booth.
I will.
I'm gonna have tote bags. They're gonna be sick.
Can't have too many tote bags.
Yeah.
So you've been producing events for a long time.
Yeah.
What do you do now that you didn't do then to refine your craft as a producer?
I think definitely coming out of the fringe scene very early on and touring. Like the first couple of fringes I did with friend of the show, Thomas Ford.
Oh, yeah.
So we learnt a lot, in those early years producing things ourselves, and then I kind of went solo and Thomas went solo and doing our own thing. And again, like just making lots of mistakes and, having little strokes of luck and then little strokes of failure, producing things. I think it's about having a good team.
Yeah.
Being committed to what you want to do, having some, contacts out there in the media that you trust with your stuff. And like, you have to really want it. You have to work hard to get a show out there. And it's hard, especially like Perth Fringe, like the first couple of years was so, much smaller, and it was easy to get eyes on your show. But now there's so much
monster,
and a lot of the media, they just want to focus on like the big cabaret and circus shows, which I understand, I get it, but it's so hard as like a little indie show now to stand out and just be like, hey, also I toured this show around Canada for 3 years and it won awards. Come here, tell people to come see my show. But
pull your pants down.
Yeah, and they're like, you don't have a sexy lady on your poster. I'm like, oh, okay.
Or a sexy boy.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a lot harder. And like I haven't done a lot of theatre in the last 2 years, for obvious reasons, and hoping to get back into it. The next big thing I hope to do is get back to Canada at some point. By the time I get back, it would have been like 5 years since I've toured. When considering like my original conceit for moving back to Western Australia was like, if I can't live in Canada, because I moved back mainly for like to be with my family and I've got nephews and
everyone's
stuff now,
here,
and I want to be close to it, and a lot of my friends live here,
yeah.
But a lot of my friends also live in Canada, so I was like, well, if I can tour Canada for 3 months of the year during their summer and do that circuit, like my brain won't explode.
Yeah, great deal.
And being, for lack of a better word, trapped in Perth for the last 2 and a bit years now, when we literally couldn't leave, or you could leave but you might not be able to get back for border restrictions and obvious reasons. It was very stressful, and it was like a big like cause of anxiety and a big learning curve for me. And even now, like with the pandemic still going on, whether people want to believe it or not, and going to Canada is it's still not viable, because like it's just like also like all all my sweet tour savings are like just dwindled away, and it's just hard to get back to that point.
Oh, it's got to be consistent, you know, and having a massive spanner thrown directly at our industry. It put a lot of us out of business. It slowed me down for sure.
And it was a really hard pill to swallow, where like the arts industry took a massive hit and all shows were cut down, or like we're at such reduced capacities that it wasn't even worth it to do shows. And meanwhile, you know, there's like a sports stadium filled with several thousand people watching a football game. And I'm not ragging on football, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's basically the same thing. It's a bunch of people sitting in a room watching a thing.
Who doesn't have ball in it?
But doesn't have shorts and kicking it through the sticks. So, you know, and it's hard not to be bitter about that when, like, we live especially in Australia, where it's like sports held in such high regard that we couldn't possibly cancel a football game, but, you know, having, you know, 50 people in a theatre watching a play isn't viable.
Yeah. I think COVID gave the opportunity for the sort of more corporate tourist government events to be more in the forefront. And definitely educational institutions sort of went into that realm instead of arts. It's more, you know, corporate, beige, kind of
just boring.
No, that like it's less risque, you know. That's the shift I've seen. And
then even like getting the fringe back up in Perth, you know, with the baby steps that had, even the very few international acts that came here, or the Eastern States acts that came over here, were like, you know, they were like the big shows that could afford the risk, you know. Like, and I'm just like, well, I mean, it's good that this is happening again, but this doesn't feel very fringy to me. And it's starting to get to that point. You know,
I was lucky on 2 occasions. I had before COVID, I had a DJ wedding gig in Yallingup.
Was that your name, DJ Wedding? Because I think it should be.
It could be, actually. I had a very well paid DJ wedding gig in Yallingup, and that got cancelled, and then it got rebooked. So picked that up. And then nothing for ages. And then, was it last year, I did a show for this council, the George Mellier's Rescored event. And then the COVID bomb happened the next day.
Yeah, great.
I just snuck it in by one day.
Love that.
Fuck, it was so close.
Yeah.
Not so lucky since then. On two occasions now, the COVID bombs stopped me from launching a project.
So many gigs have been cancelled on me, man. Like last year, it was terrible. Like so many festivals that were like looked like it was going to happen, and then like the borders happened, or you know, there was an outbreak in Darwin, like where Darwin at the time was like the safest place to be in Australia, and then it
not anymore.
Went to hell. I was like, well, okay, that's not happening. There's another couple of grand that I've lost, or is now flight credit I may never get to use. And like last year was such a struggle, like Perth and Adelaide, and just so many things. I just had to keep cancelling things, and every time it just hits you a little bit harder in the heart, and it's at a point now where it's just like, do I even want to do this anymore? Like,
I know, it can be,
there's only so many knocks I can take, and so much heartbreak before I'm like, I'll just do something else. I'll just get a different job.
Don't say it!
Yeah. You know?
I know, right? I know. But, you know, I don't know. What else are we going to do? I'm good at what I've been doing for 20 years.
Absolutely.
You know, and so are you and a whole bunch of us. I think, we have transferable skills and all of that. I just think that this shift of focus to corporate, government, hospitality, hotels, all that kind of thing, that's the shift I saw when I was doing my diplomas in events and marketing. It's all just going towards that. And there's no risk. And, you know, you've got your team, you've got your safety nets and, it didn't work. But, we'll still get paid. And so I kind of sat through that, through my diplomas with the rest of the class who were sort of much younger and all very sort of corporate-minded people, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think that was a shift that the industry went, okay, no more touring and that, and and that's how it's kind of gone. So my sort of aim or new strategy is to, keep it alternative, but convince the corporates to take a fucking shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not weirdos.
Yeah.
Well,
we are, but we're nice weirdos.
No, it's not weird or gross or anything. It's just different, But they're just so scared of doing something different
and getting people, not afraid of jumping out of their comfort zones, and that's one thing I love about the fringe theatre thing is the fringe theatre scene.
Yes,
is you can go see a couple of shows in a night, and one might be like a lovely little cabaret show, one might be a circus show, and one might be some real weird show where you see a guy shit out an egg. Yes, that's a real show that I saw. And each of those things has their own merits, and each of those things is going to appeal to different people. But if you're someone that's willing to take that risk to spend a night out, spending a couple, $15-20 on a couple of different shows, having a couple of drinks, having a night out in town, and just like absorbing 3 very different shows, I think you'd be a better person for it.
Well, I mean, you haven't wasted a night out. You've done 3 different things. You've had your mind blown at least once.
Yeah. See something you've never seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go, and I'm not going to rag on any like stand-ups or anything, but you can go see this, the same 4 white dudes do the same stand-up act, at some pub, and sure, maybe that's your thing, and you don't want to go any further than that, and that's fine. But maybe you want to go see some musical comedy, or go see some alternative comedy, some people doing some different stuff, or go see a theatre show, even if it's like a very white toast theatre show that just pushes you out of your comfort zone of just like watching people act live on stage. Just don't be afraid, I think, is the thing that we need people to realise that it's not always going to pay off. I've seen some fringe shows that I thought were terrible, but I've also seen some that have like blown my mind.
Yeah.
They were, for the most part, ones that were like bare bones, shoestring budget stuff.
Let's talk collectibles.
All right, how long you got?
Well, my Mac's still got a bit of room left on it.
Right.
So, we're both collectors. Yeah. You've seen my collection for the first time.
Like I said just before we started recording, walking into your place, because you have a great collection, but you also have like quite different stuff to what I've got. And I was just like, this is what it must feel like when people come to my house. Because I'm just like walking around going, look at this. Oh, you've got this. And it's like, I love that thrill. And I love that thrill when people come to see my toy collection. It's a buzz, man.
Yeah.
Especially when people grab onto something specific, like, I used to have this when I was a kid, or like, I used to watch this show, or, this is something I've never seen. That's what I love.
As I said, it's a fraction of what I used to have.
Yeah.
And I had an incident where I had to move out of the house reluctantly, but I had to come to grips with the fact that I had to sell, get rid of stuff, and I just had a hard time doing it because I loved it all.
Especially when you have a connection to everything, and you can't separate yourself.
And I didn't know where to start.
It's hard.
And so I thought to myself, I'll sell the thing that I prize the most.
Yeah.
And then that will break,
make every sure. So what was that?
My original Castle Grayskull with the figures.
Okay.
Not all of them, but the main ones.
Okay. Yeah, I can see why that would have been a tough decision.
Yeah, and so, but it worked.
Yeah.
The next thing I was just selling all sorts
Everything
of shit.
compared to that was like fine,
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone the opposite way, where I've actually just moved into a bigger place than I was. So I actually have more room to display things, but I'm still trying to do that. I'm still trying to downsize to sell off things that I don't hold as dear, or that I'm like, well, I have this, but I also have this, which is basically the same thing, and downsizing it so that I can use that money to buy other things for the collection.
Investments, if I buy something, if I decide to spend a bit of money on something, so that I know that it's going up in value. Like it's an item that is valuable.
Yeah.
And I might lose money on it, but I'll still sell it, or I like the trade. I like trade.
It's great.
I traded some vintage stuff and boosted my Star Wars collection.
Amazing.
And so I like to, it's a bit of a sort of, collect this, but get rid of that.
Yeah, and I know collecting like vintage stuff, like when I do the toy fairs and stuff, when I'm selling excess like vintage stuff that I have, and any money that I make from selling vintage toys feels like free money to spend on toys, you know? It's kind of like, okay, well, this isn't coming out of like, you know, my work money. This is like my hobby money. And like, if I can sustain my collection from my collection, you know, it feels, you know, not so bad.
Yeah. When I had to shift, I sold a lot, and I made some pretty good money.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know about that, because I probably would have bought a bunch of your stuff.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so this is just like, you know, a fraction. But
it's nice to kind of like, you've got a very like well curated display out here.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
still very distracting, but it's great. And like just for listeners, I'm facing Ivan, and behind him is a wall of like amazing vintage VHS tapes, and I'm very distracted by it.
Yeah, there once was over 2,500 tapes.
Yeah.
I wish I'd just buried them now.
Yeah.
I do. I wish I'd just put them in boxes
like
and garbage bags.
Yeah.
And just buried them.
In the desert somewhere, like those ET Atari cartridges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they are worth some money now. But at the time, I don't know.
But I remember like, you know, when DVD took over, everyone was like, throw these VHSs in the garbage. And it was like, the vibe was like, well, we don't need these anymore. But like everything comes back.
It does.
But I didn't expect VHS to come back, but it has.
It's kind of like the cassette.
Yeah.
Cassettes aren't coming back.
Yeah.
No one's going to...
That being said, I recently have bought some brand new albums on cassette.
Yeah. There's the occasional, but it's nostalgic.
Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly what it is. It's not like, I probably won't even
it's
play
marketing.
it from this.
There were local bands some ages ago putting out cassettes with a thumb drive inside of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of cool.
I dig it.
You know? But yeah, the cassettes were not a very good format.
No.
They didn't last very long in that. But here's the thing, and I was talking to someone about this, where like the sound didn't really matter. It was the music that mattered.
Yeah.
You know, so you just however, you know, how many fucking times the tape broke.
Yeah.
You
were listening to them on like, you know, $10 Akai headphones anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
everything was made cheaply.
Yeah.
It just looked really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was talking to someone about how many times we would sort of listen to one album and just know it off by heart.
Totally.
Where I wonder if that's a thing anymore.
Yeah,
because we only had this much choice.
Well, I mean, like I have younger cousins now and nephews and nieces and stuff that they're very much grown up in that kind of like the single era where like a brand new single's come out on Spotify, and I'm like, I'll wait for the album to come out, and they don't really understand that thing. I'm like, no, because then they get all the songs, and it's at once, and it's like it tells a story, and it's all part of one piece of art. Where it's just like a lot of art, like artists say, just like putting out singles. I'm like, are you putting out an album? And they're like, no, I don't know, it doesn't really work like that, just because of the way like algorithms work and all that kind of weird stuff. So I'm like, I don't care about that.
It's not attractive.
Put a cool album out.
It's all about commerce.
Yeah, put something in my hand.
Well, I got excited about Jack White's album, and I love his business sense, his marketing and everything. And I hit up Rhubarb Records down the road.
Love that place.
And he goes, he says, I'm only getting 3, so you better be there.
Oh, damn.
You know?
Yeah.
So I got there 10 minutes early. You know, this was a bit of fun. Like, let me be a fanboy.
Yeah.
You know? I'm coming to get my Jack White album. But it's an awesome album.
Yeah.
Like, have you heard it?
I've listened to bits of it. I haven't fully listened to it yet. But
fucking great album, man. And it's just great.
Yeah, I love it. I think his new one's the only one I don't have of his.
He's injected the right balance of experimentalism and rock, and just he's played everything himself.
Are you trying to convince me to spend money today when I leave here? Because that feels like
they'd all be gone by now. You'll have to download it.
Oh no!
You'll have to buy the Thingle.
No, I'll go buy it on a compact disc. I'm still.
Yeah.
I say old school, but to me that's not that old school. Yeah. But you know.
But his the inner sleeves are great. The marketing's great. Yeah, that's a record,
Yeah.
But he's like, I think he's around my age. He's at least a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And so he's got his own record plant, Third Man Records.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, he's got a label and like he's all over it, man. He's
That's
awesome.
a smart move.
Yeah, totally.
Because that way you don't have to wait on the thousands of hours of months of.
Well, maybe that's what the Rolling Stones should do.
How do they not at this point? Like, surely they can afford it.
They haven't learnt to do anything else.
Because there's so many albums I've been so excited about that like they've come out, and then I have to wait for the physical copy for months. But yeah, because I've got a very, very modest vinyl collection that I started just last year.
Sure.
And again, thanks for your great advice on that, which is quality over quantity. Because as soon as I sort of started collecting, people started just giving me records, like just their dollar bin ones, and there was some gold in there. But now I've got a little stack that I'm going to go trade in for some things that I really, really want. But yeah, it is. There's something so satisfying about listening to music on a record.
Yeah, I'm not really an audiophile. For me, it's the music and being a songwriter and all that kind of thing. But I love strategizing, like which ones am I going to trade where?
Yeah, okay.
Because I only really hit the same shops.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to trade the one I got from there with this guy because he's like, "What'd you bring my record back for?"
Oh, okay. That's smart. Yeah.
Anyway, but then other places have a bit more, like Record Finder in Fremantle.
Oh yeah.
Rarities only, pretty much.
Yeah.
They have a lot of stuff, but rarities only, so it's a little bit more expensive.
Sure.
But yeah, I like the trade. I like the journey, and I never really like that Jack White album was like I never go to a record shop knowing what I'm going to get.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a mystery, except for when I'm pinpointing something that's about to come out. Like that's pretty much it, But I like the Lucky Dip and I like the whole thing. You know, it's not just I'm never about the best sound.
Yeah.
I've got some great albums that I classify as scratchy but catchy.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah.
I can still listen to it if it's going or whatever, like whatever.
Yeah, I picked up a really cheap recording of the original Roxy cast of Rocky Horror Show, which is like it's all warped and scratchy. It's hard to listen to, but it's so good.
Yeah, I've got a really fucked up version of AC/DC TNT.
Oh yeah,
it's an original album.
Yeah,
but the media is just not in great shape. But I don't care. I don't care. I was preserving collections for people at one stage, and a couple of good old friends of mine let me preserve their record collection, and it was just there's so many pissy nights.
Oh yeah,
and it shows.
Yeah,
and I was pulling out these great albums and a big chunk sticking out. Just be taken off.
Yeah,
and be like, "What the fuck happened there?" And they're like, "I don't know, it's just another party or something," But the way that they come back, and they look just great. Like preserving your records is really
I mean that's important. Another thing I delved pretty deep into, like how to maintain them and clean them and bought the
you're
nice
never
stuff.
going to get rid of all the dust.
No.
Like vinyl's always going to have a speck of a pop or here or there. Unless it's like clean off the press. But people can go crazy about this shit, and they do. But I like music. But I like records, and I don't play CDs. I've got a couple, and I'll put them through the Xbox. And
okay.
I don't do much streaming. Every now and then.
I try not, like I still have a massive CD collection. I still, if I'm buying a new album, usually buy it on CD unless it's something like really special that I want on vinyl.
Right.
But just because my CD collection, I think it's because of the age, because I grew up so much in the 90s where CDs was the way to buy music, and when I had disposable income for the first time, that was how I got music. And because my collection's so big now, I'm just like, well, I can't just throw it away. I've got like 800 albums on this fucking shelf.
I ended up buying cases and throwing away all the plastic cases and just keeping the disc in there in cases, you know. Because, it stacks up. At least records are a bit, I don't know, like, it's all about how much you want to store. Really, I mean, it's with everything, you know. All right, well, let's. I want to wrap up collectibles, but I want you to tell me what your prized possession is.
Oh man, that's hard.
I know.
I mean, I have some like pretty rare Star Wars stuff. I'll say the one that springs to mind is I have a 1978, 79, I forget, Takara Japanese wind-up R2-D2, which came out with the first film, and it's pretty rare. And the reason I love it is A, because it's pretty rare. It's one of the most expensive things I have, and I got it in, I think, Calgary, Canada. While I was on the tour, we would go with my friend Al. We were touring the Beard Show, and everywhere we could, we'd go to garage sales and flea markets because there's so many, and we loved it. It was the best. And this one place, this guy was selling a couple of vintage Star Wars figures that I didn't have. I was like, oh, what do you want on these two? And it was, you know, he gave me a sweet deal on them. I was like, oh, what's this thing? And I picked up the little wind-up R2. He was like, oh, I don't know, just chuck it in. And the guy just gave it to me. I didn't know what it was. I just saw Takara, and I was like, oh, it's vintage, it's Japanese, cool. And then went and looked up, and it's worth a couple of $100.
Yeah.
And like, I felt bad. I was like, fuck, I robbed that guy. I didn't mean to, but I basically robbed that dude. But he just didn't know what he had. I didn't know either.
Yeah.
And just because of the story behind it, because it came from, you know, a great tour, and it just came from a fun garage sale and just hunting with friends, and it's a cool little piece, a little wind-up R2-D2 that kind of crawls along. So
nice.
yeah, that's a prize piece.
Okay.
And a lot of the pieces I have that I love, you know, come with a story. Like I've got a $6 million man figure that I got for like $10.
Oh.
Again, in Canada, my friend Al, he rang me up. He said, "This thing is here. Just come here quickly. I think you'll want to buy it." And so I ran down the street, and he's like, "That's the thing." I was like, "I do want to buy it." Yeah, so correct. What about yourself? Can I ask you what's a prize piece in your collection?
It is hard. Yeah. It is hard, but I do. I mean, I value my Star Wars stuff, but that kind of goes without saying. Any Star Wars stuff is always going to be Star Wars, you know. But I have a pretty cool collection of vintage bubblegum cards.
Oh, nice!
Yeah,
that's cool.
I've always been into bubblegum cards. And then I got back into them and just sort of collected enough. Bubblegum cards, and I think the VHS though.
It is a great collection. I also have a cell from the real Ghostbusters of Slimer that my brother gave for my birthday or Christmas.
Oh, that's nice.
So I really like that piece. And I also have the newspaper from Back to the Future when it came out on USA Today. Back to the Future Day. Like a physical copy of that.
Oh, really?
Cool. So those are two pieces that I really like that aren't like specifically toy things.
Yeah. I've probably got other stuff that I can't. But when I sold my stuff to move out, I got rid of some prized possessions, especially that. Yeah, the Castle Grayskull. I bought that.
You can come over and play with mine.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
I bought that for $5 at a swap meet.
That's amazing.
In Belmont.
You wouldn't get one for $5 now.
I was like, how much? $5. Here's $5 here.
Yeah, thank you.
Say goodbye.
Please don't change your mind. Runs away. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like the reboots. I think that Kevin Smith has done a great job with the reboot of his Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
I love the continuation of the story.
Yeah.
And that Skeletor takes over Grayskull, and they got to get it back.
Yeah. I love it.
I like that the central character is more towards Teela. And I like what they did with all the characters. You know,
it was fun.
Gave them more background and concepts, and the music's great, and it's a good trip.
Yeah, and like the animation style is really cool. Like it's different, but you know, you still feel like you're in the world of the original, you know, Masters of the Universe, which is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they couldn't have picked a better producer, Kevin Smith. He's
the guy knows pop culture, man.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
And dick jokes
and fart jokes and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. Well, let's finish with plug away. Plug yourself away. What do you got coming up?
Sure. I would say, well, the next big thing I've got, depending on when this comes out, is Supernova in Western Australia. I've also got my online store for Cube Boy Collectibles. So yeah, just look up Cube Boy Collectibles on any form of social media. It's there, Cube Boy Collectibles. And feel free to reach out and send me a message. And if you want to know more, hit me up. I'm happy to share.
Awesome, mate. Good talking to you.
Absolute pleasure, dude.
Always a pleasure.
I'm going to go through your VHSs now.
Okay, bye.